So here we are, Nigel, and we're talking about new places for new people, and that's part of the God for All strategy of the Connectional Evangelism and Growth team. And new places for new people seems to be where all the resources are, and that means money is available to us. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Each district has been allocated a specific amount of money. Without all the details, the total for this district when we throw in our matched money is £750,000. That's spread over district projects, which we might call stage 1 projects, and also circuit projects, which we might call stage 2 projects. Collectively, I think that's a big resource. The match bit, which we need to kind of find, my colleagues in the God for All strategy have just released a paper which costs out, for example, volunteer in kind time, and if we rented out a room or a manse or part of a building, then we can also use that as part of the match. So it might seem a lot of money to find locally, but I think with some creativity, and we know some circuits have got a lot of money, then I don't think it's too big an ask. And I want to make the best possible use we can of that money, not just doing projects, but changing the culture too, so that we think about new places for new people as a priority. And if you push me, I'd love to see that being the lens we see everything through, rather than how we can maintain what we have. I'd love it to move so that we can think about how we do the new, where the people are who need to know Jesus, where they might be in the community, what spaces and places they live in, work in, relax in, so that we can connect with them in the hope of making new disciples.
So that's the prime aim. We're making new disciples. That's what it's all about. And we want to be inventive and creative and pioneering and all of that. But I just want to take us back to the money for a second, because I know money can be a huge incentive and a huge stumbling block as well. So the incentive seems to be the overall amount. And that's great that so much is being released. I guess the stumbling block is when people hear the matched funded bit. Because sometimes there's that mentality around that we're impoverished and we can't afford anything, and I'm just finding it really helpful you're saying that that's not necessarily actual money, it may be in kind as well. So I guess we want to emphasize that you know, we don't want people to hold their hands up and say we can't possibly do anything, we're a poor church or a circuit, but we want them to look creatively at how they match things.
And I've got the figure in front of me that for a volunteer we can apportion £16.46 an hour of their time if they're contributing to a New Places for New People project. And that could be anything from discerning what's going on, planning meetings, connecting with the community, consultations, and even if you're not strong at maths, that quickly adds up. For say 10 volunteers doing 10 hours, we've quickly amassed quite a sum of money. So I think what the Connectional team are trying to do is to make it as easy as possible to use things like those in-kind contributions to overcome those obstacles. So I'm encouraged by that, really.
So the other bit about making new disciples, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I would say that many of the ways we've been trying to do that over the past years hasn't really come off. And statistically, that shows up in the decline, the continuing decline of the Methodist Church numbers. I know numbers aren't everything, but they are an indicator at one level. So what are we asking for that's different here, and how are we implementing that in our district?
Okay. So every bit of research I've ever read, every piece of practice that's ever been done, all points to the fact that it's much easier to make new disciples by starting something new than trying to reimagine or reposition something existing. All the new churches know that, which is why they're so keen on planting churches, and have had significant growth. So to me, that is that culture change, that we need to start thinking new. And that's not to say we abandon what we have, but I think again it's just that shift, so that we're looking to intentionally do new things with new people, who many of whom, I mean, we're sitting here in Kirkby, where I spent 12 years. You know, many people even 20 years ago had no understanding of the basics of Christianity, and that's continued. So the harvest is there, but I think we've spent a lot of time trying to harvest people who have already got faith, and I would love us to shift so that the good news reaches those who've not seen it. So I think that's the new bit, and move in a sense of responsibility, so that my colleagues use the phrase that everyone's an evangelist. Not that they're standing on the street corner necessarily or doing the gospel presentation, but they are being good news, they're talking about their faith, and they're connecting with friends, neighbours, family, people in the community. So I think that's the new shift I think we need to make.
Do you think there's something about new wine in old wineskins here then, and letting those old wineskins be, not neglecting them, not forgetting them, but acknowledging that this newness has to be something very different?
I think so, and some of that might mean taking attention off our buildings, attention off our Sundays, attention off some of our ways of being and doing, perhaps, dare I say it in Methodists, challenging how we do preaching, so that it's more of a dialogue with people who don't know Jesus, which I think is the biblical model. Out in the community, have a discussion about understandings of God and Scripture and faith, and unpacking those things.
So one thing to get our heads round is this isn't just about starting a new meeting up. It might include that, or a new event up, or going to a new place. It's about the way we do things as well. And although we've got learned models within Inherited Church, some of those might be good in some places, but in some other new places, they may not work. And
Yep.
so there's got to be that, what you're calling the new culture.
I think so, yeah. And some of the examples people are doing, you know, on user housing estates, there's great opportunity there. There's often not community buildings, full stop. So we have to have a different approach, which might mean doing things in the grassed spaces, for example, in the centre of those new housing estates. It might be celebrating some of the seasonal things, Christmas, Easter, knocking on doors, giving welcome packs, gift packs, invitations to be a community, a genuine community. And then others are playing around with small groups around special interests, which might be film or books, particularly those have grown during lockdown. So I think wherever we discern the Spirit moving is where we need to be. And we need to stop doing some of the things which, in my view, aren't fruitful.
So some big challenges there. What are we going to stop? How are we going to listen to the Spirit? What is new that we need to commit to? What about in this district? We've got something called the Genesis Project, which is how we've named our initiative here. Do you want to unpack that one a bit?
Yeah, I think I said at one of the previous exec meetings, I think Cliff, our property secretary, said we closed 25% of our buildings in 18 months. And I think I suggested we need to start opening new things. And so the Genesis idea came out of a prayer meeting of people who were interested in this subject. And it was about creation, it was about new birth, it was about God doing things and the Spirit moving and us joining in with that, and hopefully one day standing back and go, hey, it's good. And so I'm very excited about the possibilities in the district. People are already doing things via the Pioneer Pathways, but hopefully we can build on that. I think we've got a real core of excellent people who know what they're about, know what they're trying to do, and are seeking God in their context. So those things do excite me. I think we could add to that number and grow it. I don't want it to be a closed group or a clique. Hopefully it will be a big squad of people all serving this kind of opportunity we have, really. And we had a little bit of a line to the Genesis project, which was about sparking new places for new people. Someone prophetically offered that into the mix, and I love that idea of things sparking as we seek God out in our communities, really. So I think we've got great opportunities. There's great diversity in the district, from rural to inner city to market towns and to different perhaps commuter communities. So I don't think we're limited by the scope of our context, really. So I'd encourage people just to think about it, have a go about it, encourage others to have a go about it.
So we're going in at a number of different levels, aren't we? Because we're starting up new ideas, new places for new people, and some of those are embryonic and starting up already, and we're gathering those together under the Genesis project. And that's at 2 levels as well, because we're talking about doing that as a district, but also as circuits and churches. And then we've drawn together a group of people that can almost be an enthusiastic group to envision people and enable people and journey with them as they come up with ideas and seek to put them into practice. Where do you see the real opportunities in that model?
I think one of the big ones for me is I'm committed to team. This is no reflection on great ordained people like yourself, Chris, but we've become too reliant upon ministers to do things. So I think that the breadth, the diversity of the team is a great strength. I think that's one of the things. I think all church planting, I don't think it's hardly ever a solo venture. I think it is a collective, and I think if we can build that, that's great. And then we have a richness of ideas which comes from that, from different people with different perspectives. And I hope as we move forward and we start to actually see things on the ground, we can share ideas, we can share resources, we can share prayers for one another in the good times and the challenging times. So I think there's a support network. I think one of the big challenges we have in Methodism is we're quick to write things off before we give them a chance. So I think the Genesis Project team can talk up this, not in a naive or overconfident way, but we can be positive, we can be permission giving, we can be encouraging. We can say yes before we find the reasons to say no. So I think again, it's back to, and I've said it already, it's about that culture change where we're creating something new, something Genesis-like, that gives us an opportunity to do something different.